AITA for cussing out the host for commenting on my wife. I, 31 male, and my wife, 28 female, have been together for 4 years, married for 1. She is intelligent, kind, funny, compassionate, and loving. I am very lucky. She also has an amazing figure with a typical hourglass shape. She usually dresses formally and conservatively for work, dress code, and in comfortable casuals around friends. Fitting or revealing clothes are generally for when it's just the two of us. I think she looks great in everything and never gave this much thought before. We went to a pool party hosted by one of our common friends, F30. Most of us were wearing normal clothes during brunch and changed into swimwear after. The murmurs started soon as my wife stepped out in her bikini. Most of them were surprised but complimentary, but our host and a group of her friends became noticeably colder from this point, with comments about how she's being attention-seeking and vulgar. My wife wasn't wearing anything different from the other women. If anything, she was a little more covered up because she had a scarf around her waist, and her bikini top was more like a regular brassiere. I was already pissed off, but because they were talking amongst themselves at this point, I decided to just ignore it and not create a scene. When my wife took off her scarf thing to go into the pool, though, our host yelled, "Oh, come on," and then said to her friend in a loud voice, 50% of the people there could hear, that my wife is an attention whore. I admit I lost my cool and yelled back at her that she was a jealous bitch and a terrible host. My wife and I left shortly after. Here's why I may be the asshole. It's been brought to my attention that attention whore isn't literally calling someone a whore. I wouldn't have called her a bitch had I known this, but I still feel somewhat justified because whatever it means, it is still pretty offensive. We were guests in her home. This is my wife's main point. She thinks we should have just left and reduced our interaction with that group. We were one of the only 3 Indian families invited. There is an element of representing my whole ethnicity when we are in a mixed group that's very real. The other 2 Indian couples are critical of me. The others, 8 white couples, 1 black, found it funny / are mostly on my side. I am not counting our host and her friends that she was talking to. There were 4 children present, all under 13, and this is something I feel pretty shitty about too. They aren't the host's kids, and their parents brushed off my apology, but I feel terrible about this part. Despite all this, they'd been insulting my wife for 30 minutes straight. How is that okay? So, Reddit, AITA, NTA. And good on you for standing up for your wife. The fact that they commented on your wife's body with children present is the main privilege, not you calling the ringleader AB. And if you and your wife do choose to have your own children, you want to show them to not allow people to demean them the way they did your wife. Those people, the hosts, are not your friends. And you should do more than reduce your interactions with them. You should cut them off. On to story 2. ITA for refusing to invite my cousin to any more of my hangouts and telling my aunt and uncle that Claire making no effort is probably the real reason why she isn't making any friends. My aunt and uncle are down on their luck. They moved in with my grandparents, and now my cousin Claire, 15, is going to the same school as me, 16. Claire does have some minor issues that could discourage potential friends, but they really don't matter compared to the fact that she doesn't talk to anyone. Claire immediately ends any conversation that other people try to have with her, and she's been like that for years. After moving, my aunt and uncle told me that Claire is scared that she's going to be bullied again like she was at her last school, and asked me to invite Claire to hang out with me and my friends. I did, and it went nowhere. Me and my friends tried to start conversations with Claire about herself, but she'd always just be like, sure, or I don't know. She didn't ask anyone else about themselves. She went on her phone and basically made no real effort back. I told my family about it, and my aunt and uncle asked me to give Claire another chance. Same story. Claire hung out with my friend group multiple times, and she hasn't shown any indication that she even wants to be there. School just started, and Claire is not being any different. According to a friend, Claire actually refused to participate in the class icebreaker and got called to the teacher's desk after class. He had to get to his other class and didn't see/hear anything after that. My aunt and uncle came to me again and told me that Claire is upset because she can't seem to make friends, and they asked if she could hang out with me and my friends again. This time I told them no. We don't click in the first place, and honestly have no common interests. She can join a club or talk to people by herself. Think of what they would recommend if I wasn't at the same school and tell her to do that. This is where I was probably the asshole. I kept talking and said I get she's having a hard time and maybe won't let anyone in for fear of being bullied. But nobody wants to chase a person who gives no effort back into a conversation. And her acting this way is probably the real reason why she isn't making any friends. My aunt and uncle went off at me, and they and my parents got into an argument over it. My aunt and uncle told me you're not going to have any contact with most of the people you hung out with in high school, but Claire will always be my cousin and I need to get over myself and help her. I'm expecting too much and that if I were bullied at my old school, I wouldn't suddenly feel safe at the new one, and to have some patience and empathy. I felt I've already done enough in the patience and empathy department. Claire made no effort back and clearly no one can make friends for her. I see the last bit of what I said as a reality check, but my aunt and uncle have basically called it bullying and my parents didn't really take a stance on it. AITA and TA, you have made an effort. Other people have made an effort. For whatever reason, she's not engaged with that and has sometimes actively pushed people away. You're not responsible for that. If her parents are so worried, then they need to find her some proper help or speak to the school themselves to see what support is available. They cannot force you or anyone else to be her friend.